39th District. But before we start talking with Sharon, I just had a few announcements for the Franklin County Democratic Party. We're going to have our monthly meeting on Saturday the 18th. It's always the third Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. So it's going to be this Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but the next, the 18th at 9 a.m., and it's going to be at our headquarters. And our headquarters are going to be open just through the November 6th election. It's at 420 East Main Street in Deckard. It's a really nice building. We're going to be open every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So on Thursdays, we're open from 10 to 2. On Fridays, we're open from 2 to 6. And on Saturdays, we're open from 10 to 2. So again, that's 420 East Main Street in Deckard, on the Main Street in Deckard. Our next meeting is August 18th at 9 a.m., and our hours are Thursdays 10 to 2, Fridays 2 to 6, and Saturdays 10 to 2. And if you get there and there's nobody there, there's a phone number that you can call on the door, and somebody can be there quickly to get you what you need. But we have signs and all sorts of campaign materials for all of our candidates. And by the way, the primary is over, so we know who our candidates are. So let me just tell y'all who our candidates are. So for the 39th District State Rep, we have Sharon Adams, and she's our guest today. And so she'll be going against Iris Rutter to be our state rep. For the 92nd District, and that only affects a little part of Franklin County, that's the very, very southernmost part on the Alabama border, that's the 92nd District, and the candidate is Scott Coffey, who I think will be going against Rick Tillis, I believe. Okay. Anyway, for governor, we have Carl Dean. This is a man with a proven track record. He was the mayor of Nashville through 2 terms of exponential growth in Nashville. And then for U.S. Senate, we have Phil Bredesen. His record also speaks for itself. 2 terms as governor. Saw Tennessee through a very booming and good time. And then we have Mariah Phillips running for U.S. Congress, and she will be going up against our current U.S. Rep, Scott Desjardins. So Mariah Phillips is from Murfreesboro. She's a mother of 5, public school teacher. She's going to be our candidate for the 4th District, U.S. Rep. Speaking of teachers, Sharon Adams is a retired teacher, so we've got 2 teachers running. So who knows better what families are dealing with and going through than teachers? They are on the front lines of everything. I also wanted to announce that the Franklin County Democratic Party is having our big annual fundraiser barbecue supper, and that's going to be on September 29th at 5:30 at the Annex. We're hoping to get Phil Bredesen and some other big speakers. So anyway, we hope that Carl Dean was there last time. We hope that y'all can come out and meet all the candidates. I know Mariah Phillips will be there. I know Sharon will be there. And we're hoping to get Carl Dean and Phil Bredesen as well. And maybe some other speakers as well. We're not sure yet. But anyway, that's going to be September 29th at 5:30 at the Annex. Also, the Franklin County Democratic Party is going to have a booth at the Fall Heritage Festival in Cowan. That used to be the Polly Crockett Festival. So we're going to be there with our booth. We'll have voter registration materials, all the campaign materials you want. So come say hi to us there at the Fall Heritage Festival. That's going to be September 21st through the 23rd. Okay, so I believe that's all the announcements that we have for today. So let's just start talking a bit with Sharon. So, Sharon, tell us a bit. You've been on the show before, but a lot of people listening today may not have caught that show. So let's just sort of review some of the stuff we talked about last time. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing, your family, your kids, your career, whatever. Just give us a little bit of info about yourself.
Well, thank you, Helen, and good morning to everyone. I was born and raised in Sequatchie County, Tennessee. I was the youngest of 5 children to parents who were teachers. So I am in a teacher family. My parents were teachers. My brother is the principal at Sequatchie County High School. I married a teacher who is a former band director. We're both retired. And I became a teacher myself, and I taught 8th grade American history, and I taught for 30 years. And when I taught American history, I tried to instill in my students the ideal of being a responsible citizen of this country, and that all people must vote, help their fellow man when needed, and become a leader to others.
And then how many kids do you have?
I have 5.
5?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have 3 children. I have 5 grandchildren.
Oh, wow. Okay. And do they all live in the area?
My son lives in Atlanta, and my other 2 children live in Chattanooga.
Okay. And are any of them teachers?
My daughter is educated to become a teacher, or she has a degree, but she is a stay-at-home mom with 2 small children.
Yeah. Might as well stay home until they're old enough for school. Okay. Well, back when you were a teacher, what did you see lacking in our public schools? Like, what would you have, when you were sitting around in the teacher's lounge talking with other teachers, what did you hear them say, like, that you wished that our schools had? Or what would you want our leaders to know from back when you were teaching?
Well, one thing is there's no funding for children who've not had the support or opportunity that they need to start school. And this does carry over into the upper grades. We need more mentors, we need more tutoring for all grade levels to bring those students into the point where they are ready for their grade level.
Where is the state right now with pre-K? I know that kindergarten, any student can go to kindergarten, but I know that for pre-K, at least at Swanee Elementary, there's a lottery for it. Like, not everybody can get in. Do you think we're going to have universal pre-K soon, or is that in the horizon, do you think?
Well, now, I'm not familiar with the lower grades, being as I taught the upper grades, but I would hope so. I know we need more school funding. We need more different kinds of programs, and we need raises for teachers also. All students are unique, and we should teach to their strengths, not have to teach to a test. And too much emphasis is placed on testing and not enough on individual students' needs, and that's where we need to put a focus. I don't think that one test does define a student.
Right. Yeah. And so you're basically wishing that we had more teachers' aides, more kind of support staff for the teachers. Okay. And that all takes funding, right? Yeah, because I mean, it's one thing to say, "Oh, we need more money." Well, but how will you spend that money?
Right.
I mean, that's the important thing. You can't
and
just
there are other
money.
programs that need money also.
Well, like which ones, for example?
Well, the arts, the arts and vocational education, they're lacking in funding. For example, my husband was a band director, and unfortunately, instruments were the responsibility of the parents. There's no money funding toward things like that.
Did it used to be, I don't know, Al, do you remember, like, when you were in school, when kids were in the band, did they have to buy their instruments, or was that provided by the school?
You had to buy them back then.
Back then you did.
Because we went and got used stuff from people that were in the band. Maybe some of the major things like the tubas and some things like that might be provided. The big bass drums. I think the school's got some of those. But as far as the individual instruments, you had to provide your own.
You did. Okay, so it's always been that way.
My granddaughter rented hers, and she has 2. She plays the tenor sax, and then she plays clarinet. And we surprised her this June for her birthday with a tenor saxophone. Her mother actually got all this together, and she was so excited. But because I don't know, it seems like I'm from Louisiana. At the high school where I went, the band uniforms were provided by the school. The instruments were. This was in Louisiana.
but now every student has to buy their own uniform, or have bake sales to put that together.
It's fundraisers is what they do for their uniforms. I don't think the individual kid actually has to, say it's going to cost you this to do it. I think what it boils down to is they have these fundraisers to buy uniforms, and then they're, then of course it belongs to the school.
Right.
Not it's kind of handed down until they get new uniforms. Type thing. So that's the way I think that works.
I think in your more progressive band programs, students do have to, and parents do have to pledge a certain amount of money if they do these things like go to the Macy's parades and things like that. There are a few schools in Chattanooga that do that, but most don't.
They do fundraisers. I know when I was going on trips, they do fundraisers. They sell fruit. They sell sheets. They sell anything they can come up with.
I bought that fruit.
And they've got the concession stand. They got the concession stand at the football and basketball games in which they try to raise money for their program and everything. So that's some of the ways they raise their money. And that's a big problem, big issue in our school system, is that we went through that term for a while to where kids are going door to door, knocking on doors almost constantly, selling something to do something, and we've kind of tried to curtail some of that, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we want to encourage kids to be in band, to learn these skills. Like, why shouldn't the state or the school pay for those kind of things so that parents who are so busy and students don't have to spend all their time fundraising, that they can spend their time practicing their instrument and, practicing their marching formations instead of running around door to door selling stuff.
Here's the answer, Ellen.
Bugging everybody.
Here's the answer. Give them more money.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
You can give them more money, Helen. You can go in and
I
you can appropriate.
am on the county commission. I will give them whatever they ask for. For me, schools. Okay, being a busy parent, we went through with Little League. It used to be that the county paid for Little League, and do you remember, it was before I was on the county commission, right before I came on.
They had a donation. I don't think they paid for it.
Yeah, right, I know. But the county used to donate to all the Little Leagues, and then they voted to stop doing that. And so now the parents who organize Little League, they have full-time jobs, they have other kids. They are so busy, and okay, even if you put fundraising aside, Little League takes a lot of work, organizing all those schedules, getting the umpires to show up, getting the uniforms, finding coaches, and all the time spent coaching. It's hard enough to get parents to step up and volunteer just for those things, but then when you have to pile on all this fundraising on top of it,
right.
I just feel like if we want kids to do sports and we want kids to do music, fund it so that the overworked parents don't have to spend all their time. But
it's an interesting concept. But the other problem you're looking at, you're wanting to go to Nashville, is that the state mandates a lot of programs in the state for school systems, and then there's no money that comes down from the state, and that handicaps our school system. It puts more pressure on Helen to help make these projects happen as a county commissioner, and I think that's one of the biggest complaints that we get from Nashville, is that and then the federal government as well. You got to do these things, but hey, you're going to have to fund it yourself.
There's no money, yes. And unfortunately, sometimes local commissioners and authorities don't understand that, and they don't know that this money's not there to do these programs. But hopefully we can help get more funding to public schools.
Yes, I think that it should be our number one. I think kids should be our number one priority.
They're our greatest resource.
The number is 967-2201?
Yes, ma'am.
I remembered it. Okay. So if you have a question for Sharon Adams, running for state rep, please call in at 967-2201. She would be happy to answer any of your questions. So, Sharon, what are the current teacher-to-student ratios? How many, what's the biggest, or what's the largest number of students you can have in a class with one teacher?
Supposedly, grades K through 5, it's anywhere from 15 to 20. Mm-hmm. In grades 6 through 7, it should 22 to 1. Mm-hmm. And grades 9 through 12, 30 to 1. But the thing about that is when you have an overflow, there are waivers that they will sign to increase those numbers. I had that happen to me, and I happened to have a small classroom, and it was not large enough for my students. And so, 8th grade kids are pretty large. But that's a thing that needs to be addressed. We need to get class sizes down as low as possible so that teachers can put emphasis on individual student needs. When you have too many students in the classroom, that's just virtually impossible.
Yeah, definitely. I've taught before. I know. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just curious, in 2010 we had the big Tea Party wave, and a lot of, the legislature went big time Republican, and being a teacher changed a lot after that. Talk about some of those changes as far as union representation or whatever, like how life for a teacher has changed since the Tea Party wave in 2010.
Okay, this happened after I retired, but teachers have basically lost their right to negotiate contracts. And they're pretty much demoralized and stressed due to new evaluation reforms, which there's too much emphasis on testing, and teachers are evaluated by the testing. And as you have probably heard about some of the problems with the testing, the websites break down, they switch testing companies every year, but yet teachers are still evaluated on these test scores.
Yeah, the last 2 years, I believe, the internet testing, or the online testing failed, right? I think one time, was it hacked or something? Do y'all know? Anyway, but yeah, there have been problems with that. Okay, what else?
They also have TEA representatives, that's the Tennessee Education Association, on the State Retirement Board are replaced with political appointees instead of retired teachers. And then you have non-licensed education employees that can be fired at will. Whereas prior to that, there had to be a reason. Okay. And unproved charter and virtual schools were basically given blank checks to expand. Okay. And that's demoralizing for a public school teacher.
Sharon, I think we have a call for you.
Okay.
WCDC, you're on the air.
I'm Dave Fraley. I wanted to call and say thank you to the people who voted for me and the people who went out and voted. I was in the hospital on Election Day, so I did not get to call in that evening, and I want everybody to know how grateful I am for their vote. I will be serving for 4 years as a State Democratic Executive Committee member, and I've been on that committee for some time, and I certainly do appreciate the votes that I got. I also wanted to comment on the class size. Southern Association, when a school gets in the Southern Association, they will not let them have those tremendous numbers. 1 year I had 5 classes with 30 people in it, and then I had a 6-period study hall with 330 people in it. So many things have happened since I have quit teaching, but that's the way it used to be. But I'm so glad that the class sizes are smaller now. Thank you all for listening.
How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm just a week from being in the hospital. I'm really feeling well, but I'm just weak.
Right.
But I'll be out in a few days.
All right, you get to feeling better, okay?
Thank you.
Will.
Thank you, Betty.
I will.
So Betty is a good case in point about why you need to do early voting, because you never know what's going to happen on Election Day. I mean, poor Betty had a heart attack, the night before Election Day. So, but luckily she had early voted. And Sharon is running for Betty's husband's, George Fraley's, old seat. So that's
sure am.
That's what she's running for.
I would be honored to have that seat. Now,
you had talked about how now school employees can be fired at will. I've often heard the myth that, you know, when there is a union, that it's literally impossible to fire a teacher. Is that true? That it's you cannot fire a teacher when there's a union, or what's the truth about that?
No, that's not true. Basically, what tenure did was to protect the due process rights of teachers.
Okay, and what is due process? What are the steps in due process?
Well, they have to have a reason for the firing and prove that reason.
Okay. But now they can just fire someone without going through that?
Well, I'm not sure exactly how that works now because I'm not in education anymore, but that's something I need to work on in finding out. But they can be fired easier than prior to 2010.
All right, so let's switch topics from education over into healthcare. We seem to just talk endlessly about healthcare, but gosh, it's just so important in our lives. And I have heard a rumor that they are closing Emerald Hodgson in Sewanee. Have you heard anything about that? Okay, well, it's just a rumor right now. And a friend of mine spoke with the folks at LifePoint. LifePoint is the corporation that owns that hospital up in Sewanee, and they said they can neither confirm or deny those rumors. And so if it would be closing in 18 months. That scares me to death. Okay, because it's a 30-minute drive from Sewanee. Imagine if you live in Sherwood and have an emergency. You'd have to come up the mountain to Sewanee, down the mountain again to Winchester. Unless there's one up there in North Alabama, maybe that's closer. I don't know. But anyway,
is it close to South Pittsburgh, Sherwood?
That might be about the same distance as going to Winchester. Yeah, but still, it's still. I mean, the people in Sewanee need it. The university needs it. I mean, there are students.
Who get sick?
All the time. A lot of old people in Sewanee, and I mean, one story is one time my husband, when my son was probably about 9 or 10 years old, he and my husband were just playing around. They were wrestling on the floor and just totally joking around. And my husband got my son and squeezed him. It was just they were just playing, but squeezed his chest. And that set my son off into an asthma attack.
Oh, man.
And my husband just felt so terrible. I mean, they were totally just playing. But he went into the worst asthma attack, and they said at the hospital that if we hadn't gotten him there right when we did, that he might not have survived, that he was not getting any air at all. And, if we had to have driven 30 minutes as opposed to 2 minutes, over to the Sewanee Hospital. Anyway, I'm very, very worried about losing our hospital in Sewanee, and I know that in Tennessee, small rural hospitals are going down left and right.
I think there was an announcement of another one closing here just recently.
Yeah.
Already.
Okay.
They announced that they were closing in West Tennessee somewhere, I think.
So if you were elected, would you vote to expand Medicaid?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And what does not expanding Medicaid have to do with these hospitals closing? What is the relationship between expanding Medicaid and keeping our rural hospitals open?
Well, I think a hospital has to take in a sick person whether they get paid or not. And if they do, then that person probably won't pay that bill.
That was actually Reagan's law, by the way.
Yeah.
That was Reagan. Ronald Reagan passed that law that a hospital cannot turn away anybody.
But to explain it a little bit better, there's anywhere from 250 to 300,000 Tennesseans who are not covered by health insurance. And these are the people that work in those minimum wage jobs or low wage jobs. They can't afford health care in the open market because it's too expensive. They're in what they call the coverage gap because they don't qualify for Medicaid and cannot afford that medical insurance. But if we expanded Medicaid, it would cover those folks. And they're out there trying to make a living. They're not making a lot of money, and they need that help.
And they're not home sitting on their sitting on their couch watching TV. They're out working full-time jobs.
I think we're losing about $1.4 billion a year by not expanding Medicaid that goes to other states. That's federal dollars that allocated to us, but we're not taking care of that. Also, if we did expand Medicaid, it would create about 15,000 jobs.
Wow.
And then, of course, with your hospitals closing, you have jobs that are under threat of being gone, and I think that totals around 15,000, close to it. And also, right now, people with pre-existing conditions, premiums are going up, and they're getting more restrictions on their coverage, and because of the not expanding Medicaid, and there is a real need to get that done. The opioid crisis would help. The expanded Medicaid would give treatment and help for those kind of folks. And also it does affect your rural clinics, your home care, your private doctors and pharmacies. All of that affects those entities.
The ripple effect.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I just saw a study. This was it came out 3 days ago on the website Wallet Hub, where they ranked all the healthcare systems in the U.S. by state. And they rank them according to infant mortality rate, that kind of thing, or the percentage of people covered, and just all sorts of health outcomes. Okay, so these were the top 11 states in the U.S. Vermont, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Minnesota, Hawaii, Rhode Island, Colorado, District of Columbia, Iowa, Maryland, and Connecticut. So one thing that those 11 states all have in common is that they expanded Medicaid, and they did it right away at the very beginning. These are the 11 worst states, and I normally would have done just the 10, but I added the 11 because Tennessee is the 11th worst, unfortunately, and I hate to see that. But so the 11 worst are Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Alabama, North Carolina, Arkansas, Alaska, Mississippi, and my home state of Louisiana. In Louisiana, we're usually competing with Mississippi for number 1 or number 2 and worse.
I noticed the best were kind of a New England based area,
in Colorado.
and the worst is southern.
Yeah.
Primarily.
But what the worst have in common is that other than Louisiana, which only let me back up. What the 11 worst have in common is that none of them have expanded Medicaid, except for Arkansas, Mississippi. Oh no, sorry. Arkansas, Alaska, and Louisiana. And Louisiana only just did it. Yeah, we just got a new Democratic governor, John Bel Edwards.
So did Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia just did, but they're not in that. But anyway, so I mean, it's a pretty clear correlation that when you expand Medicaid, that the health outcomes are going to be better. Now, maybe they were already better.
And with healthy people, you have happier people. And I wanted to
more productive.
Iterate something. There are about 24,000 to 35,000 veterans that would be helped by the Medicaid expansion. And actually, Governor Haslam has tried to expand Medicaid, but the legislature, because of the law called Durham's Law, refuses to pass it, and then they have it's just really, we need to do it, and that's why I'm running is I want to help get that expanded. But
what I think is someone in the Medicaid gap, if you were working, at McDonald's or somewhere where you were working really hard and not making enough, you could just be lazy and just quit your job, become destitute, and get Medicaid. Why are we punishing people who are out there actually trying to work and make a living by not expanding Medicaid? I just don't.
There are limits, though. I think Medicaid, a lot of it is pregnant women, children, long-term care. Those people are covered by Medicaid, and there's a few others, but I'm not sure if you just sat around just for nothing if you could qualify, but, but Governor Haslam has tried. He considers that his biggest failure.
Yeah.
But we've got to get the legislature to agree.
And I hate to be ugly and name names, but our state senator, Janice Bowling, thinks that the worst thing that could happen to you is to get Medicaid, is to be able to see a doctor. And our state rep, David Alexander, was against expanding. They were both against expanding Medicaid. So, I mean, like I said, I don't like to name names and be like that, but it's just a fact. So anyway, I just think that I just thought that those states it was striking that the ones with good outcomes have expanded Medicaid and the ones with the bad outcomes have not. And like Arkansas did expand Medicaid, but they waited many years, so it's probably not, the results aren't picking. And Louisiana only just did, and Alaska also waited a while. And yeah, like I said, like you said, Virginia just did, and so I'm hoping that they will have good luck with that. Anyway, so we've got you down on record that you would vote to expand Medicaid.
Okay,
in our
yes,
state.
definitely.
And think of the millions of dollars we're losing that are going to these other states. It just doesn't seem right to me.
$1.4 billion plus. I definitely would vote to give teachers a raise.
Yeah.
That would draw more teachers, qualified, good teachers into the state, because I know in Hamilton County, a lot of the teachers would cross the state line and teach in Georgia because the pay was better. And I would like to see those Georgia teachers cross into Tennessee to teach.
Right. Well, we're seeing that even in our county. They cross into Coffee County. I think
they're going to go. Good teachers are going to go where the pay is better or best.
Yeah. Okay. I have another, switching topics to payday lenders. There seems to be a new payday lender place popping up on Dinosaur Boulevard every day. They're just popping up like mushrooms. If elected, what would you do to protect Tennesseans from predatory lenders? I know that sometimes their rates can be over 100%, right?
Well,
and our legislators currently are not doing anything they could cap the rate. They could pass a law and cap the rate, and they are not doing that.
That's what I was going to say, that I would definitely work to cap some rates on their interest rates and try to investigate how they do things and keep a watch on them and make sure that those. I mean, when you get somebody when they're down, because folks who go to these payday lenders are obviously in great need, and I just think it's just horrible to profit off of those folks.
I want to tell folks, we had a guest on this show, I think last year. His name is Spike Hosh, and he saw the problem of payday lenders, and he has opened up a place called BetterFi, and it's in Colmont in Grundy County, and their maximum rate is 24%, which seems like a lot, but when you compare it to all the ones down here in Winchester that have sometimes 240% interest, that's pretty darn good. And, I mean, this isn't where you go. Okay, and then there's another program or another deal at BetterFi in Colmont where the rate is 2%, and that is if you agree to meet with a financial coach. You have to, now to get that rate, that really low rate, you have to be employed. You have to show that you have a job, several other minimum kind of requirements, but you have to agree to meet with a financial coach.
That's an interesting concept.
So that's not where you go when you need your meth money, real fast. You have to be responsible. You have to be committed. You have to, whatever. But he offers extremely low rates to people, and he's not in there to make a profit like the others. This is sort of a nonprofit. It's supported by a grant from the community fund. So if all you people out there, if any of you need to borrow money, you can't get a deal from the bank, I would suggest calling the folks at BetterFi in Colmont. That's if you're willing to, be responsible, try and get your finances in order, meet with a financial coach.
And everybody has a financial setback on occasion, especially if you have a medical condition and you have to pay out of pocket a large amount of money.
But anyway, the number at BetterFi is 931-313-9942. I am wishing them a lot of success because he wants to put the payday predatory lenders out of business.
I would like to see
and
that
I'm wishing him well. I mean, anyway, so again, that's 931-313-9942. So that's a good alternative to the payday lenders. And like I said, our current legislature is not doing anything to protect Tennesseans from these people. I realize that it's your choice to go in there. No one's forcing you to go in there, but the fact that there's a new one popping up every week shows me that there's a lot of people who are in that position, needing to do that.
Unfortunately, some of the people, that's the only where they can go get money because they have such low standards in you qualifying for that loan. So they're kind of stuck, where they got to have money, and that's the only place. It's almost like, I guess going to the corner.
Yep. I guess it's better than a loan shark. They're not going to break your legs. But anyway. But I'm glad that we finally have an alternative in our area. I know Colmont is far away, but anyway, at least there's something. Okay, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about your stance on our current minimum wage in Tennessee, which is $7.25 an hour. What do you think would be a fair wage? Would you vote to raise the minimum wage?
Absolutely. There is not much you can do on $7.25 an hour. And all too often, a lot of these companies will make their employees work part-time, and that hurts. But I'd like to see it raised to $10 an hour.
Okay. And how do you think that would help our rural communities if we raise the minimum wage?
Oh, goodness. I mean, $10 an hour is fair, but they would have more option for spending and maybe to save a little bit, but economically, it would work. They'd buy more. They could eat out more, and those all help the community.
And they'd spend it locally.
Yes,
right?
Yeah,
like
I think so.
McDonald's. Okay, if you think about it, if you go from $7.25 to $10, that's $2.75 more per hour. So, do you want that $2.75 more an hour, and then so that by shift, that would be $22? Do you want McDonald's headquarters to have that $22 a day, or do you want that $22 a day to get spent here in Winchester at businesses here?
Oh, definitely local.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would.
But
see.
Definitely local.
Has there been any effort in the legislature to try and raise the minimum wage?
No, I don't think so. Not much at all. Has it even been brought up for a vote? I don't think so. This is the federal minimum wage. Tennessee does not have a minimum wage, and I'd like to see Tennessee create their own minimum wage. I think in Massachusetts they just raised theirs to $15 an hour.
Well, yeah, they have a much higher cost of living.
Yes, they do.
All right, well, we're almost out of time. Is there anything else that you want the listeners to know about you or issues that you care about?
Well, one thing is, when I set forth to do something, I try to do it to the best of my ability. My 5 siblings and I, when we were going to school, I never missed a day of school in 12 years.
Wow.
So I won't be absent for votes or important things in the legislature. I will be there. Matter of fact, out of us 5 siblings, we only missed 8 days of school. I think my brother had the mumps and missed 5, and then my sister missed 3. But my parents were very concerned about education, and they wanted to make sure that we were, because if you're not at school, you can't get the education that you need. And all too often, students are not present. We have absenteeism is just way too high.
Yeah, I agree. All right then. Well, thank you so much. And let me just go over our announcements one more time before we go. Our monthly meeting is going to be August 18th at 9 o'clock at our headquarters, and our headquarters is 420 East Main Street in Deckard. We're only going to have that through the November 6th election. We're open Thursdays 10 to 2, Fridays 2 to 6, and Saturdays from 10 to 2. And then just planning ahead, you might want to put in your calendar that on Saturday, September 29th at 5:30 is our barbecue supper and fundraiser, and we're hoping to have some big candidates there to talk to us. And I also just want y'all to please go online and look up all of the Democratic candidates running for office. We have Sharon Adams running for State Rep, 39th District.
And may I interject something there? I have a website. It's called VoteSharonAdams.com.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to go and check out all that I stand for. Of course, we couldn't cover everything here, but I would love your support, and I'd ask for your vote.
Yes, thank you. And then we have Carl Dean running for governor, Phil Bredesen running for U.S. Senate, and Mariah Phillips running for U.S. Rep. 4th District. All right. Well, thank you so much, Al, for letting us come on.
If you want change, you need to vote for change.
Indeed.
All right. So once again, the election is in November, and I know that you're out there and you're available for, I guess, to talk to people and to meet people, and you'd love to hear from folks, right?
Yes, I'll be glad to give them my phone number. It's 423-280-5555. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to call me. If I don't answer, I will return your call.
And you're saying you can go to the website and you can contact you through your website too?
You can go to VoteSharonAdams@gmail.com. It's my email address.
So it's 423, what's your number again?
423-280-5555.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and I thank all the listeners out there. I hope to run a good campaign, and I'd like to see more voters to get out. I think we had, 20?
What was the turnout?
A little over 8,000 people in Franklin County.
8,000 out of 41,000 population.
24,000 registered voters.
So basically a third.
Okay.
Yeah.
A third of the people that were eligible came out.
So I guess in your early campaigning, was there any major issues that came to light that people were really concerned about, or some of the really major things? Because I know we just came off of a lot of gas tax stuff, reduce on the groceries and things like that. It had a lot of mixed emotions. What are some of the big things that people are talking about?
The tariffs and the Tennessee farmers, and the concern that they're having with those, and how much it will hurt Tennessee as far as the tariffs are concerned, as far as our still, like our car manufacturers, Volkswagen in Chattanooga, and then our farmers in Middle and West Tennessee. I think you have more agriculture in the Middle and West than you do East Tennessee.
Unfortunately, the state legislature can't do anything about that.
Right.
Tariff. That's decided in Washington.
Well, it is.
But that's what got people worried. I know.
That's what folks are talking about right now.
All you see when you drive down the road are fields of soybeans.
Right.
And I'm worried about those.
That's one thing. But then again, there was everybody's concerned about health care.
Healthcare, I think, is a big issue, but and I guess tariffs, but also a lot of people concerned about infrastructure and our roads and how we're going to get around in the future and these kind of things. And I know that I don't know how much is going to come into play in the state legislature. And for some of these things are city problems,
right?
But I know that getting from point A to point B, mass transit. available to move people back and forth. I don't know how that's going to come into play in the state.
Well, I know that several years ago, I'm a big basketball fan, and I followed the Lady Vols, and we went to Arkansas, Little Rock, to play. It was the SEC tournament, and the roads over there were atrocious.
Holy moly!
But now I've noticed that our roads are becoming like their roads. A couple I talked to over there were complimenting me, and they said they'd love to drive through Tennessee because their roads were so good. But now our roads are becoming in bad shape. There are potholes, there's uneven surfaces, and those need to be addressed for sure.
And is it because of, the growing pains in Tennessee? Is it because we're growing so fast and we're trying to handle the traffic loads and things like that? Is that what's getting us behind, or what do you think?
Now, I don't know about that. It probably has something to do with it. I know the large trucks have a lot to do with road messing the roads up or causing potholes and destruction.
I think once this gas tax goes into effect, that there will be a lot more repairs on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming. I mean, there's probably a lot of deferred maintenance, and that's why they had to put that gas tax in.
I've noticed roads in Chattanooga are becoming really in horrible shape, especially around the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I remarked to someone that the best road in East Tennessee is the road that goes across our mountain, because there's so many people that travel that mountain to get to work in Chattanooga every day that they keep that road in great shape. Because if they don't, I think they'll have Miss Hooper, Linda Hooper, on them about it, and you don't want that. If you don't know who Linda Hooper is, she was the principal at Whitwell Middle School for many years, and she is the co-sponsor of the Paperclip story. If you're unaware of the Paperclip story, it's you can look it up. And there was a movie about that. They have actually a railroad car from Auschwitz in Germany, and they collected paperclips for every victim of the Holocaust, and they actually have a museum. It's a good trip for a school trip, a day trip to go to the museum. They even have a whole library.
Yeah, my kids
did
a school trip to the paperclip thing. Yeah, it's amazing when you see 6 million paperclips and knowing that each one of those represents a person. It was very powerful.
So I know you'd love to talk to people about issues and concerns and things like that, and to learn more about what's going on.
I would love for anyone to have that has an issue or a problem to contact me and let me know what it is so that I can do investigating and report. Matter of fact, I had a lady to tell me about her sister who is blind, and she was unable to get liability, and she didn't know about the Association on the Aged, and I got her in contact with them, and I haven't checked back with her to see what's happened, but she was, and I think her sister lives over here somewhere in Winchester or in Franklin County.
But yeah, I definitely think the biggest thing is Medicaid expansion. Like one little story, back in January, my mother has Medicare, and she fell down the stairs, broke her hip and her shoulder, and when you have Medicare, as with many insurances, you get all of this rehab. She had the surgery to fix her shoulder and everything. She had occupational therapy, she had physical therapy, she had speech therapy. And she got to stay in a rehab facility for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then when she came back home, these home health people would come to her house and do the physical therapy with her. And she was 86 years old, and now she is just totally back to normal because she has Medicare. And while I don't begrudge my mother any of that, I'm so glad she got all of that. It took me and my sisters helping out a lot too, but she got so much help to get physically and mentally back to normal again. And I was thinking though, what if you were a 30-year-old waitress with 3 kids and that happened to you? You fell and broke your shoulder, and you had no insurance. How could you get back on your feet again without any of those services that I mean, an 86-year-old, it's not like she's going to use that shoulder to play tennis or anything. You know, I mean, I'm glad she got fixed up and everything, but why does an 86-year-old get that, but not a 30-year-old mother with 3 children relying on her and a job where you need a shoulder that works?
Well, now I think
and there's nothing out there for them if they don't have insurance. So if we had Medicaid expansion, then that young mother would have those services that my mother got and benefited from so much. You know?
Well, I do think that mothers with small children are eligible for Medicaid, but think of the lost
it
income.
takes months.
Yes.
It takes months. I mean, if she hadn't been on it before, I mean, her kids would have health
She would
insurance
have no
through
income.
S-chip, but she wouldn't. You know, and probably wouldn't get all those support services.
Medicaid is the largest thing that I'm concerned about. In also public education. We need that money here. We have lost over $5 billion since Medicaid, the expansion came in for us to be able to do, and that's just money out there that's going elsewhere, and those hospitals didn't have to close.
And I'm sorry, folks, you know, a coffee can at the convenience store is not going to pay your medical bills.
No.
And a church cannot pay your medical bills. Not many churches have $250,000 on hand to help you pay your medical bills. You know, that's not an answer.
All right, cool. Guys, thanks for coming out and being with us.
Okay, thank you so much.
I appreciate y'all allowing me to come, and Franklin County folks, get out and vote.
All right, thank you.
Get registered if you're not registered.